Welcome, guys, to a very personal episode of the UnKaged podcast. I'm your host, Gonz. You guys already, if you guys have been keeping up with the podcast, you guys know who I am. But I'm one of the owners here of the Cage Gym. So Omar will probably do one like this too as well. But for today, you guys are going to be entering my mind, and I'll be talking about a couple things, couple topics that just kind of come off my head. But ultimately, I figured this would be great to just talk about myself and tell you guys who I am and how I managed to put myself here. um, so I am of South American descent. I'm from Peru. So shout out to all my Peruvians out there, if there's any. I haven't really met too many in this area, honestly. But that's where I'm from. I came here when I was 4 and don't remember much. But yes, I am technically. I'm an immigrant here in America for sure. 100%. Grew up that way. Spanish was my first language. I still speak a little bit of Spanish. I can understand everything people say, by the way. It's just a little bit hard for me sometimes to speak it because I have to remember it. But regardless, came here when I was 4. Didn't know anything. Had no friends whatsoever. Grew up in the city, actually. I moved to Chicago first. And in Chicago, I spent majority of my younger years from age 4 up until age 12. I think I'd spent most of my time in Chicago. Went from school to school. I think I had like 3 or 4 different schools I jumped around when I was in the city. So friends for me in general was kind of a little hard to come around because I feel like I would meet some people, some really cool guys, and then all of a sudden I'd have to go to a different school and I had to start all over again. I'd do that multiple times. And it kind of sucked because like I never developed really good friendships in the beginning of my life until I made it to the suburbs. So when I was 12, I moved up here towards the suburbs in Schaumburg, suburbs of Chicago, basically. And I started kind of finding that core group of friends that I had started surrounding myself with. Now, I'm not going to lie, a lot of these guys I really don't talk to anymore. There's maybe 1 or 2 that I still do, but they weren't necessarily the nicest people sometimes. We definitely did a lot of stuff growing up in terms of just vandalizing and just getting in trouble and being dumb, stuff like that. But during the time, that's kind of all I knew, and I kind of wanted to fit in, so I was just kind of slightly influenced in that degree. But I was never somebody that took it overboard. Like I had a lot of my friend group that would take it overboard. They got in trouble with the law, stuff like that. I have been in trouble with the law once, thankfully. Yeah, it was honestly very stupid, but okay, I'll talk about it. But basically, what happened is I had this friend, not the best, not the, he was my best friend at the time, but honestly, low key, he put me in a lot of trouble. And one day we had discovered um, what is it called? What car hopping was. He was explaining what car hopping was to me, and he was basically just opening car doors and taking whatever he saw and just running. And I was like, me being dumb, stupid, freaking eighth grader, I was like, oh, this is cool, whatever. Like, I'll join you. I was nervous as fuck, man. Like, I did not want to do this, but we saw this black car. It was like this old Nissan Sentra. Opened the car. I took this bag, and it was literally like a makeup bag. But there was a neighbor that saw it, and he called the police immediately. So me and my friend are running, trying to bolt back to his house. I was on the main street, and literally within 5 minutes, a cop car pulls up on us. And I'm literally arrested there on the street. It was like the craziest shit ever. Like some freaking episode of freaking Cops or something. Like it was insane. And I learned very quickly to not be dumb and do things that your other friends are getting in trouble for, especially things like that, petty things like that. Thankfully, the lady never pressed charges for me actually doing that. So that saved my ass a lot. But not for my parents. My parents completely just wrecked me for that whole summer. I was grounded basically for I don't even know how long, probably like a year or something. Could not even go out see friends, everything like that. But I learned very quickly that like, look, you need to know who you surround yourself with, and you have to really see who's your actual friend or not. because a lot of the times you think you have friends, you think these people are your friends, but at the end of the day, they're not really your friends. They're just people that are there to share a good time, and they're also living their good time, their young time, right? And so that taught me very early to start looking at my friend group, start looking at who I'm really surrounding myself with, because that taught me a ton of lessons in the beginning. So from then on, right, high school started. High school for me was, it was awesome. It was cool. Got my first girlfriend. I know my second girlfriend technically there. And by the way, guys, I'm not like a player or anything by any means. I have maybe only had a couple partners ever in my life, but not necessarily somebody that would go out or interact at parties or go to anything. But that was my first introduction, was during high school. Like, I had a lot of friends that started drinking, started smoking, started going to parties, stuff like that. I was always a homebody. I never liked being in social events. I like being by myself. I like playing video games. That was huge for me. I'm a huge gamer ever since I was a kid. And I got introduced to a little Sega Genesis. And I was playing Mortal Kombat on it. And I was also playing, I think, oh man, what was the other games? I don't know. There's some shooting games and stuff like that. But that was my introduction to there. And I got my first PlayStation. I got my, Xbox 360, all that stuff. I was a huge gamer during that time. That's honestly, thankfully, majority of my friend group was also doing that. So we were all doing that. But yeah, during high school, I was not the life of the party. I was an introvert. I barely talked, honestly. I don't know how I made I don't know how made the friends that I did, because if you had asked me to talk or do something, or like, I had to be picked on in the class in order to talk, or else I wasn't going to talk. And so for me to meet a lot of people during high school was just hard, because you're kind of closing yourself off all the time. I was aware of that during the time, but I was also somebody that from an early age I had been called shy. So I feel like that also kind of wrecked my view on that. You know what I mean? It wrecked the uh, me feeling confident about myself, because I'd always been called shy. And so it's almost like you form this bubble in your head of, oh, he's just the shy dude. He's the shy kid. So I'm going to act shy. And that's exactly what happened is I acted in the way that I felt like I was, but I knew that I always wasn't shy. I was only shy and didn't interact with people because I felt like I didn't really need to meet some people, if that makes sense. But I feel like my energy and my time was better spent with people that were actually going to support me. I learned that very quickly after I had that incident of when I got in trouble with the law, but just for being around the wrong people, honestly. So during high school, I was more aware of that. But during this time as well, you also learn, right? I was learning. I was also starting to develop what things I really liked. During eighth grade, actually, leading into freshman year, my mom put me in these weight training classes. And I had fallen in love with weight training, literally, because of my mom. My mom was the one that introduced me to it, because I was put into every sport growing up as a kid, and I hated all of them. I hated soccer. I hated basketball. I hated swimming. I hated tennis. I hated taekwondo, literally everything. I've probably played everything, but I honestly sucked at everything. So that's probably why I also hated it. But I never understood as a kid that in order for some of these kids to get really good, they've been doing it way longer than I have. When I was a kid, I didn't know that. I just thought that you either had it or you didn't. And all these other kids that were destroying other kids, I just thought, I was like, I'm never going to be that. Like, how can I compete with this dude? This guy's insane. And that discouraged me, and that mindset kind of led me to not pursue things. It wasn't until I started weight training and my mom had put me in these weight training classes that I could actually see how this helped me. Because when I was weight training, there was no one else but me. There was no one else but me and what I saw in the mirror. And the only objective was to lift this amount of weight and get better. And that's it. That's all it was. And that was awesome, because I felt like, wow, I could actually be good at something, because I'm not competing against anyone. I'm competing literally against myself. I really like the way this feels. I loved weight training. pushing yourself in the gym, doing a machine, doing a bench press, doing a squat, seeing how much you can improve week to week. It's like a video game, almost like I'm leveling myself up. And that was awesome. That's what kind of got me hooked for it. And then when I got into high school, I had already had that in my system. So when weight training came around, like when we started doing gym class and we started going in the weight room, I was the guy. I was the person some of my friends would come up to and be like, "Hey, how are you doing that bench press, bro? Like, how do you teach me?" Because all my other friends like didn't know how to do it. And so I was now the teacher, and I loved that. That was my first experience teaching someone how to do something. And I learned very early on that I was good at that. I was good at simplifying information, giving it to someone, and helping them see how they could do it themselves. So teaching in general, right? And it's funny because as an introvert, like, like it's not like we truly want to teach people, or maybe we just don't want to talk to many people, right? So how are you going to be a teacher if you can't talk to people? But generally, if someone had to come up to me with a question, I would overvalue that question with everything they possibly needed in order to do what they needed to do and be very good with it. So for me, it was enjoyable. Like, so once I was talking into a field that I actually had some information on, I would talk a lot. That's the kind of introvert I was, right? So I think that's the biggest thing is that early on I discovered that for myself is I could teach. I found something I really liked, which was weight training, and I kept doing that all throughout high school. That's when I started basically weight training. I started progressing my physique. I'd always been a very, very chubby kid growing up, husky kid. That was me. Growing up Hispanic will do that to you, honestly. Finishing everything off your plate will do that to you. So these are all things I had to learn as I got older on how to control my food portions, how to understand what training is for me, how to do cardio, how to be more active ultimately, right? And I think that is all super huge stuff, honestly, super huge stuff that a lot of people really need to understand because growing up Hispanic, man, like, you don't have many options. Like most of the time, like you have to eat all your food. Most of the time you're punished if you don't do that. Not only that, but your grandparents feed you like insane amounts of food. On top of that, all the food choices that we have are all extremely high in carbohydrates, fats, and there is some protein, but our portions are ginormous. And it's okay for us to do this during celebrations. Also, alcohol. Alcohol is prevalent in the Hispanic community like insanely. Thankfully, I've never drank before, but so that was one thing I never had to really look for. But it kind of shows us why the Hispanic community is in the way that it's in, right? So learning that very early on helped me kind of start shaping my physique, right? And starting to look better, not just look like every other Hispanic male, every other Hispanic male that's 5'6" and under that, just looks like an Edgar and is like freaking this round, right? That's not me dissing the Hispanic community. I'm just saying we do have stereotypes too as well. But in general, right, during high school, that was my beginning phase of actually locking in on my training. Which I did the best I could, right? During that time, and when you're in high school, there's not really much you can do, right? There's not really much you can, you can learn some stuff, right? But I was still somebody that was super introverted. It's not like I really tried to put myself out more, but it was also during a time where I learned some things that I was good at. So that was the biggest thing for me. You know what I'm saying? After high school, I had basically gotten into sales. I'd gotten into sales, and I had started. Well, let me rewind back a little bit. Okay, so my first job was working at this place called Pancheros, and it was actually in Schaumburg. I started applying for jobs around like junior year. I worked there for a month. I didn't show up one day, and I got fired. But Pancheros was like a knockoff Chipotle. It was like that basically. And that's where I kind of learned how to start working, I guess, ultimately. But I was getting paid like $8 an hour. That was the minimum wage back then. And I honestly hated it. I hated working for somebody. I knew very early on that I did not want to work for anybody. And thankfully, a couple of months after that, while me and my friend Damien were walking to Lifetime Fitness one day, we would always do this. We would take this walk straight to Lifetime in Schaumburg, and there was a sign that said, "Make $18 to $23 an hour, perfect for students, perfect for college students." I was not in college at the time, but I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna call anyways. Met up with the manager. Manager was like, "Yeah, for sure, come in for an interview." I was in a tank top. I was literally not ready for an interview, but I was like, "Sure, we'll come in." So he interviewed us. We were literally ready to go to the gym. He was like, "Yeah, you guys, you guys are, seem pretty cool guys." He basically told us what we need to do, and we started selling newspaper subscriptions for the Chicago Tribune. That was what we did. That was what the whole gig was about. I had never sold anything in my life, and I was like, "Sure, what do I got to lose?" I literally just got fired from my job. I was making $8 an hour. This thing says I can make 18 to 23 an hour. Boop, light bulb went off. This makes sense. And that's all I needed to really hear. So I was like, sure, whatever. I kind of took it as like, okay, sure, let's give it a shot. Let's at least give it a shot. Right? Literally started for like 2 days. I had one of my first managers, Mason, super awesome dude. But he taught me basically how to sell. He taught me how to go door to door. I shadowed him basically for my first day. Completely forgot my name on the first pitch that I tried doing by myself. It happens a lot actually, but I do remember that vividly. I was so red. I was so embarrassed. But the good thing is that during that time, since I didn't know anything else different, I just kind of kept going. A lot of the times, like in the beginning, like a lot of salespeople kind of give up on that first one because they forget everything. Then they just have to they kind of defeat themselves mentally. For me, it was like, all right, whatever. I failed this one. Let's go try the other one. Let's go try the other one. So I'm very consistent with that. And I think that's always been something that I've always done in my life is if I'm bad at something, I will keep trying to do it up to a certain point, right? But it took me, I think, probably like 15, 20 doors to finally get somebody to bite during that first day. And when I got that first sale, it was like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was insane. It was awesome. It was euphoric. It was like, wow, dopamine. Let's go again. Let's do it. And that was my drug, guys. That was literally my drug. I've never done any kind of drug whatsoever in my life. I've never smoked, never drank, but sales and making a sale was, I think, an equivalent to what that might be. That high of knowing that I sold something to someone and somebody paid me money for it. Now I'm getting paid for this is freaking awesome. It's amazing. It's the best thing I discovered at an early age because it also taught me to work for myself. Because if I didn't sell anything, I didn't get anything. And putting yourself in that position, right, to anybody can be scary. Thankfully, I was young. I had a roof over my head, so I could afford to do it. My parents thought I was crazy. My parents thought it was all a scam, actually. And there was a lot of friends that I had told about this that thought it was a scam as well. My original friend that was going to do it with me, that got an interview with me that day, didn't follow through with it because he thought it was a scam too until I started getting paid. Then I showed him my checks, and then he quit Jewel and started working over here. So, and he was decent. He was good. But long story short, I did that for years. I sold for the Chicago Tribune for years, probably upwards of from senior year of high school all the way up until I was probably like 22 or 23. I was there for like 5-6 years, and I was in and out sometimes. So for the first 3 to 4 years, I got promoted to a supervisor. I became a manager. I started developing my own guys. I got the opportunity to run my own crew over in Cary, Illinois, which is by Crystal Lake, Algonquin area. I got my own townhouse during that time too. Moved in with one of the other supervisors in the Tribune as well. So we got like this big townhouse together, and it was actually owned by our head boss. So he hooked us up on rent. That was my first time living by myself, right, with a roommate. Not away from my parents, and I did that at like 18, which was freaking awesome. Got to experience that by myself. Didn't really take advantage of how much space we had, honestly, because it was just two of us. We were so young. We didn't even use the kitchen. Like, we didn't even cook. Like, we would just order Uber Eats all the time. By the way, guys, this was back when I was fat. I got fat again. So after high school and I started making money, I just focused on making money. I kind of stopped going to the gym for a bit and caring about my nutrition because Making money was better. And that was my mindset at the time. And I got really fat. Like, I think peak high school, I was probably like 165 pounds. Not the ultimate leanest guy, but I definitely was built. I was stocky. You could tell I lifted, and I wasn't fat. Um, However, after following that lifestyle of just working and not watching what I ate and playing video games all the time, I basically blew up to about 220 pounds. I was fat. I was really big. And I did not feel my best. I think this was probably like my young 20s, like 21, 20. I had ballooned up to that point, and it didn't hit me until one day. So my room at our townhouse in Cary was at the top floor. I would run up my stairs. I had like one, two, three flights of stairs I would run up. And I would always run up. I'd be fine, right? One day, I ran up those stairs, and I felt like I was having a heart attack. Like, I felt my heart racing. I felt my heart constricting. And I felt myself so out of breath that I thought I had to call 911 for a second. I recollected my breath. I was fine. And I knew that day was the day I had to get back in the gym. Because I immediately thought of, if this is 21 right now, what does 31 look like if I keep going? And that realization came to me at that age. I listened to it, and I went back to the gym, and I started working out again. And it wasn't perfect, but this was also during the time where I was starting to develop what I really wanted to do within the gym. And it was also during a time, too, when I had one of my other coworkers start going to the gym with me. His name was Leo. Leo has started coming with me as well. Leo is a freaking millionaire now, by the way. Like, legitimately, this guy's a multimillionaire. He lives in Florida. And Leo is somebody that I hold very dear to my heart. He was awesome. He's one of the sales people that I trained at the Tribune, and he became mega successful, insanely successful. And he's in Florida now, making millions. Forgot what he still does sales, I believe, but I honestly forgot what he does. I think he does like life insurance or health insurance or something like that. But the guy's huge now, insane. But we started together, and he started going to Lifetime again. He's like, Gonz, why don't you come with me, try this 75-day hard thing? I was like, sure, whatever, I'll try it. And it was basically 2 workouts a day, cardio 2 times a day, don't eat shit, and that was it. And I was like, fuck it, let's do it. So I literally started from like not going to the gym to going 2-a-days. And it was the best thing I could have ever done, honestly. Like, I started losing weight. I started getting strong as hell again. I felt my body just coming back to life. And during that time, Leo kind of I stopped going with Leo, and I started going with this other friend of mine named Andre. And then me and him started working out together. And then I reconnected with my other best friend during that time named Danny. Danny is a super important guy in this story, by the way, because we started actually running a crew in Cary together for the Tribune. But during this time frame, I had just basically reintroduced him back into my life. I got him like kind of doing the Tribune as well, doing sales. We kind of reconnected again because we actually went to school together during middle school. But that's kind of how that played out. And then once we got to a certain point, I had to move out of the townhouse because our lease was up. During that time frame, I didn't want to live with the roommate that I was with at the time. So I ended up moving in with my friend Danny, and we got this other townhouse in Pingree Grove, actually. And that was a really nice townhouse. That was really nice. We got hooked up for that. I think we were paying like, I don't even know, like $1,400 a month or something like that. And this place was decked out. It was a brand new townhouse in like a nice community. It was just like a brand new community that had just been brought up. But we got hooked up there, and that was the pad for like the next 2 years, I believe. And me and Danny were there. It's a good time, I think, overall in general. I learned a lot. But during these last 2 places that I had moved into, I started realizing that, the next place I move into, I just cannot live with another roommate, because living with roommates, guys, if you guys have ever done that, like, yeah, obviously they could be your best friends. They could be, somebody you relate to. But at the end of the day, if both of you have different lives, both of you guys are going to do stuff that are going to annoy you, and you guys aren't relationship partners. You know what I mean? Like, having a relationship with someone else, right, that you're gonna live for the rest of your life is completely different than living with a roommate. Living with a roommate, there's gonna be a lot of things you guys get pissed off about, and over time, it's gonna probably destroy your friendship. That's at least what I saw. And I knew that the next time I wanted to move in with somebody, it was going to be with my partner that I choose to be with for life, right? Which I have now. But regardless, during that time frame, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that, I was not somebody that really wanted to be with people that were drinking or smoking. A lot of my roommates were doing a lot of that, and I was never that person. I never was a partier. I hated parties. And a lot of the times that's just the stuff that I was around due to their tendencies, right? But I also learned a lot, during that time frame as well about business. Learned about e-commerce, cryptocurrency. There was a time when me and Danny and this other friend of mine named Jacob had basically built a cryptocurrency group back in like 2017, 2018, when crypto was doing its first boom, like Bitcoin was doing its first boom, or one of its first booms. We had started a group on Facebook called Crypto Bros, and Crypto Bros was basically just a mentorship group, tying in the teaching again, right? I loved teaching, and during this time, we had made this group a way to interview cryptocurrency developers at the time, CEOs at the time. We got in contact with all of them. We did Zoom calls, going over ICOs, which is basically initial coin offerings, which is kind of like an IPO. But before a coin goes public, they have these coin offerings that they would do for regular people that you could buy into as a regular person. By the way, this is not usually stuff that's available to regular people. You have to be accredited investors, but people were making millions, because sometimes some of these ICOs would start at like 0.00001 cent if you bought in early enough, and then as soon as it went on a publicly traded exchange, you could probably sell it for like 2 cents. So that's a multiplier of like, I don't even know how much, 100x or something. Yeah, imagine putting in just $1, right, and having it go 100x or $10, $100, right? Like it goes up insanely fast, and that's what happened during that time. Is that I made a lot of money during that time with a lot of my other friends, just investing in cryptocurrency, and it was probably one of the best times to be alive, besides the internet boom. So I'd made a good amount of money during that time frame. I got introduced to cryptocurrency. I kind of stopped wanting to work as much because I had a good amount saved up from those investments. So I was like, man, I don't know, my time's just not worth going out and selling newspaper subscriptions anymore. So during that time, I kind of just stayed home and I started learning more about other businesses. I started also an e-commerce business during that time, selling a drop shipping on Amazon. And I had built multiple stores. And during that time frame, Leo came back to the picture, and me and Leo bought a automated Amazon store from this other guy named Tommy in Florida, which he was running like an automated drop shipping Amazon business over there. And we both put in like, I think 10 grand each, and we bought like an automated Amazon store, which was just pounding money, just like insane profits every freaking day. And that was awesome. Hell, had that for a couple of years. So the e-commerce game was awesome. I was drop shipping on eBay, on Amazon, on Walmart, on Target. Like I had made so many stores during that time. And I'd also learned a lot about the e-commerce game, right? About how you can also get screwed, because I had a lot of stores that just got shut down and I lost all my money in those stores. Some of those stores had like 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand. Like it was dumb. It was honestly dumb. At the end of it, like I was like, okay, did I actually really make a good amount of money or did I not? Because technically some of these stores are still closed and they have all my money in it. So I never recovered those. I just kind of took those as a loss. But something really cool happened during this time, which was I had learned about real estate. I had learned about wholesaling real estate, all through a mentorship group that I had signed myself up for, which I was paying for monthly. But we were getting live calls with people that were in all these different industries, teaching us all these intricate, cool ways to make money. That's literally how I learned majority of this stuff. And during this time, I was doing, I got into real estate. I got understanding what real estate was, wholesale real estate. I started a real estate company with me and my friend Danny and my other friend Andre. And basically, what wholesale real estate was finding very shitty properties in any area and basically getting that property under contract with the owner, saying that you're going to buy it within 30 days and making sure that it's under market value. So if, let's say, a house is $100,000, let's say all fixed up it's worth $100,000. I buy that house for $30,000. I don't buy it yet. I basically send the buyer or the seller a form letting him know, an agreement basically letting him know that I'm going to buy his property for 30 grand in 30 days, right, or 45 days, whatever you want. And then I find an investor that buys it for a little bit more, right? That maybe wants to buy it for like 40 grand. And then I make 10 grand. So that's called an assignment. And that's all wholesaling is, really. So we did that. And we would just find all these properties everywhere. Waukegan, Round Lake, Chicago, Aurora, Schaumburg, Hoffman, Streamwood, Elgin, Carpentersville. It was everywhere, guys. Like, I was all over the northwest suburbs and Chicago. But that was probably the first lucrative business that I had that made us like a good amount of money as a business, right? Not just an investment. It was a business. Like, we were just basically getting paid commission, like big commission checks for the assignments of these properties, which is freaking awesome. And that took us not only in Illinois, but I also did deals outside of the state, in California, in Florida, in Georgia, North Carolina, a lot of other states that I can't remember, Texas. So ultimately, this is where I got to learn about partnerships, right? Partnerships are only as good as the people in them. And one of our partners had gone haywire, basically. Not Danny, it was my other partner. And basically ended up stealing a lot of money from me during this time. Very, very, very crazy story, honestly. But ultimately, we all had a business bank account. And this partner basically stole the commission out of a property that was not his, basically. And he'd already taken his cut. And he had taken more of my share, which was already there, and he stole more of it later on, and it became the downfall of that LLC and that real estate business, basically, because that was the end of it. That was the end of it. And me and Danny tried to make it work afterwards, but then he ended up moving to Arizona, and it honestly just broke up the whole entire business during that time, right? So during this time, I was also during this real estate phase, right, from like 2020 all the way up until 2022, 2023, I had gotten really into bodybuilding again. I hired a coach. I hired multiple coaches during this time. So as I was building up the real estate business, I was also training. I was also training like a bodybuilder. I had found my spark again, and I really liked where this was going. I had honestly prioritized sometimes working out, bodybuilding, my nutrition, and learning more about this stuff rather than real estate sometimes, because I was honestly never really passionate about real estate, but I was super passionate about the gym. I was super passionate about nutrition. I was super passionate about learning all this stuff and training people, coaching people. During this time, I was also slowly coaching people. Like, I was taking on a couple clients here and there. Some of them were free. Some of them, like, I actually started paying, like, charging, but most of them were free in the beginning. I was just giving them free programs, and they were just following along. I started getting people results, and I started promoting those results through my Instagram, Snapchat, and I started basically my coaching business after I had personally been coached. So I knew I'd always loved to teach. I knew the gym was always going to be in my life. I knew I really liked learning about nutrition. And so I started learning more from coaches that I was hiring. And I kind of got to narrow down what was really good, what I really liked, what I didn't like. And all of that combined ended up kind of teaching me my coaching process, right? It wasn't until 2022 that I'd come across a facility in Mundelein called called Iron Fanatics, which was already a gym for a while. But I was coaching a girl, actually, that was coming to Iron Fanatics, and one day she had told me, hey, somebody wants to sell this gym. Do you know anybody that would want to buy the gym? I was doing real estate at the time, so I honestly started thinking, okay, who could I wholesale this to? Like, there has to be somebody that could buy this gym for more. But I was like, you know what? Maybe I want to buy the gym. So I called up the owner. Owner is like super stressed, very stressful situation. Doesn't know what he wants to do. But ultimately, he basically is like, dude, just give me some cash. I'll leave. During this time, I had done one of my first athletes preps, which was Omar's. Omar, he'll probably tell us when he does his podcast, but ultimately he was somebody I took in his first bodybuilding prep through, and we had gotten super close. He also worked for me back when we first did the Tribune, and I hired him as like a 15-year-old. So he learned how to sell, all that stuff, and I met him from a very early young age. Reconnected again later on when I did his prep. He did freaking awesome. But during this time, when we got really close during his prep, I would do his 1 hour cardio sessions with him. Like I was on the Stairmaster with him. We would talk, and we would always talk about having a gym. When that opportunity came along, I called him. I was like, yo, Omar, this dude in Mundelein, he wants to sell the gym. Looks sick. Haven't been there yet. What do you think? He was like, dude, so are we buying a gym? So as soon as I heard him say that, I'm like, all right, let's do it. I'm in. Went to go check it out. We had a workout there, had a ton of fun, got to meet the guys that were there. It was a super dirty gym, underground gym, but it was honestly all we liked. It was all I liked. It was something that I was like, wow, this is freaking awesome. I've trained in dirtier places like this, and it was freaking awesome. Like, I want this. So we negotiated for about a month, me and the old owner of the gym. We came down to a price. We ended up buying the gym for about $32,000, something like that. So I put in half, Omar put in half. We met up the old owner literally in the parking lot of the gym here. He came in with his truck. He came in with this other gym owner in the area, and we gave him a freaking bag of cash. I think we gave him like a check or something, but I gave him like a bag of cash, like for my part. And he just literally was like, all right, guys, you guys are done. We signed a little general purchase agreement, got our names put over to the lease. And that was it. That was day one of Caged Gym. We worked out all freaking night that day. And then the next day came and we basically got to work. We just started tearing stuff down. We started cleaning stuff. We started vacuuming. We had a ton of Omar's friends to come and help us out. A couple of my friends came by to help us out too for free. We just gave them free memberships. But yeah, they were the epitome of helping us get done, because as we were taking members, from day one, we were taking members, by the way. We didn't close down. We already had equipment in the gym. Like, all we needed to do was just make it pretty. And during that time, it was hilarious because as we were working on the outside, people were working out on the inside of the floor. So we were kind of working around people, right? Cleaning stuff, painting stuff, whatever it was. And that's how we started. Eventually, we got some kids from Mundelein High School to come, Libertyville High School. The high school started understanding who we were, because thankfully we had taken over the Iron Fanatics Instagram page, their Google page, their Facebook page. So we didn't completely start from scratch. We just kind of took what they already had and just completely rebranded it, made it better, and ultimately upgraded it throughout the years. But we've been here now, coming up on our 4th year. Got to clap for that. But it's been such a ride, honestly, because during this time, I've gotten to meet a ton of great people. I have also developed myself as a coach. I'm a bodybuilding coach, nutritional coach as well, but I'm also a trainer. So now having the gym has given me the opportunity to basically train my clients in person, which has been awesome, because this is something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to help the younger generation ultimately in the gym find their way through the gym, and maybe talk to my younger self, right? Because I wish I would have had someone there to tell me all this stuff. I wish I would have had somebody there simplify bodybuilding for me, because I always loved looking at bodybuilders. Even when I was a kid, when I first got my first protein powder, I went to Vitamin Shop. They used to do the muscle and fitness magazines with everything you bought. And I grew up seeing those guys on there, all the bodybuilders. I was like, wow, I want to look like that. That looks freaking awesome. And I want to give that to someone now. And through every client that I work through, that is something I'm super passionate about. It's just showing them that they can do that. They can give a resemblance of that if they really want to. If they really want to, you can, 100%. And it's just finding yourself through that journey. And that's what I want to give to people. That's what I want to do as a coach, as a trainer, and whatever comes from here 10 years from now, right? I want to keep growing this. I want to keep growing my training business. I want to keep growing the gym. I want to ultimately make this a legacy, right? Something that you see like Lifetime Fitness and or LA Fitness, Planet Fitness, but just make it more of what it is right now, which is a grungy style of training and also finding who you are and being unique about it, right? Because you don't have to be like everyone else. Our gym is not like everyone else. You guys see this panda here? This man is not like everyone else. And that's what we were trying to do when we built the cage, is we were trying to make it not like everyone else. It's a unique style gym. It's something that will help you differentiate yourself and ultimately find what you want to do, right? But through fitness, but through training, right? In like a grungier style, but ultimately this is now 4 years in the making, and we have probably majority of the old school pieces in this area. It's one of a kind. It's a 24/7 gym. It's a private training facility. And honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better result of where we are now, because there's a lot of gyms that close down after the first year because they can't afford rent. We've been very blessed in the sense of where we are, the amount of people that know us, our social media, my partner Omar, everyone has been such a great help. All our staff members, Kevin, Tyler, Nick, the other Tyler has helped us with our social media. Like everyone, man, like everyone's truly helped us out a lot. And, hopefully this teaches you guys about a little bit about who I am, a little bit what I'm about, a little bit about things that weren't relating to the gym, right? And how I kind of grew up. But just know that I'm not a person that shows all of their colors or throws all of their marbles in a bag. I'm someone you have to kind of get to know, and I have to ultimately develop that over time. I'm not somebody that just completely shows you exactly who I am on the first 5 minutes of me meeting you. If you are in my life and you are somebody I can be this vulnerable to and or speak to, just know that you are one of the very few that make it within the circle that I have, because I protect that at all costs, knowing how bad some people will actually take advantage of it, right? But I've also never been a person to just have tons of friends. I've never been extroverted. I've never been somebody that ultimately wanted a ton of friends, but I wanted those friends to mean something, even if it's only a few. But regardless of that, I'm here to teach, I'm here to provide, and I'm here to ultimately give everyone that experience. And so if that's you, if that's something that, you can relate to, then I'd be more than happy to talk to you if that's something that you want to improve on with a coach. So that's it, guys. I think that kind of covers it. If you guys want to learn more about me, I'd be more than happy to dive into a lot more of that, because I kind of just gave off very brief little synopsis of different parts of my life. But there's a ton more I could definitely dig into. But hopefully that gets you guys understanding a little bit about who I am, how I think, how I was brought up, where I'm from, and ultimately, how the gym kind of came about. But thank you guys. Appreciate you for watching. Stay uncaged. Like, comment, subscribe, all those things. Love you guys.